everyone. Welcome back and thanks for joining Cindy and I on the Travel Collective YouTube channel. And we've got a podcast too. Today, we're going to talk all about how to meet other travelers, how to meet locals, and we're going to meet Dave and Meredith, who met on a bicycle tour, and now they run a business together. Hey, so it worked out great. So get all of that information. Join us. I got to get my hat off, grab my coffee, and get going. So come on. Let's get inspired.
Hey, April, we're talking another day about travel, and today we're talking to David and Meredith a little bit later. But one of the things we wanted to chat with folks about is the joy of meeting other people when they travel. Whether you go with your family or a partner or a friend or alone, part of the fun, right, is meeting other people, meeting other travelers, meeting locals, all that stuff, right?
Right.
So let's talk about some of your tips or some of the things that you've experienced when you're out there meeting people.
Yeah, it's sometimes you have friends or you have a spouse or family members and you're like, hey, I want to go photograph Yellowstone in the winter, and everyone's like, you could just hear the silence, like, what? I don't want to go where it's cold. I don't want to like stand out there. So then it's like you have to make that decision. Do you want to go alone and maybe go to a place? You know, you'll probably meet some travelers if you go to a place that's there near the park, or do you want to look for a group? There's a lot of small groups that are geared to your interest, right? Or there's meetup groups, or there's Facebook groups. So yeah, sometimes it is just getting, making that step, because you're going to have a fabulous trip by joining others that share either that interest of photography or going to that particular place that you have your eye on.
Right. And you're finding the right travel partner. We all know, we've heard stories, right? Like that's a difficult, that's a difficult thing. And we should do a whole session on,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right?
And there's tips too, because you meet someone, and sometimes it is a cost-effective way, but yeah, it's like, or even friends. I've practically,
lost friendships over it.
Yes, I have. I can say that. It's like, strains the friendship. You should have never probably taken a long trip together. So there are tips. We definitely got to make a whole episode out of that.
Yeah, I'm going to make a note. We will make a whole episode on that. But what we wanted to talk today about was just sort of that haphazard thing. Like, one, I think we have to be open. I'll take a step back. Like, I think you have to go into travel with the mindset of you want to meet people. I hear people go on a trip and they didn't meet a soul. And I think some of that might be because you weren't putting yourself out there a little bit. You have to open the door a bit and let that happen and seek out places. I know during the symposium, one of our guests told us, we were talking about how to meet locals, and her best advice was to go places where people are standing around. And what she meant was like in lines at the museum or in lines at the train station, or where people are just kind of mulling about, and she's so right. Like, I have met so many people
that is so true.
Yeah. Yes. Because if people are busy, they don't want to stop and talk to you because they're like on their way somewhere, or they have a mission, or they're with their friends or whatever. But when we're all just kind of,
when you're forced to wait, so to speak, right? Yeah. And I know it's true. It's like when you and I have gone to some of the big travel shows too. If you get there early, because everybody wants to get in right when the doors open, and you're forced to stand in that line, I've made a lot of connections just in that line, where we would have not met because we're busy now in the show floor roaming around. But because we're all just forced to wait there, and you're kind of anticipating that, you're open if someone turns around and says, oh, where did you come from? Or why are you here today? Or anything. Just I love to
tell the story of how I met this couple and their friends. When I was in New York, I was standing in line for a TV taping that I was wanting to watch a show, and those kinds of things, they make you come early and you just wait, and then you finally get to go in. So I was and I was alone. And sometimes people say, oh, you won't meet, you don't meet couples, when you're alone, it's hard to meet people that are in groups. Well, there was a group standing in front of me. And unfortunately for me, it was a woman about my age and her husband and his like 2 or 3 friends that they had met up in New York. So they were traveling, her and her husband, and they had some local New York friends that they were with. So it was about 5 people in front of me, 1 woman. And as we stood there for at least an hour, and it was raining.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
So, as we were standing there trying to stay dry and kind of commiserating, but all willing to do this for the show we were going to watch. And her and I started talking. Then her and I and him started talking. She introduced me. Again, an hour we talked, just chit chatted. By the time we were being herded in, and we weren't sitting together because we had different tickets, but when we separated, they said, "Oh, let's get together afterwards. You should go with us for dinner." And I thought they were just being sweet, that it was just lip service, something you say as you part ways, and we all sat in our different seats. But at the end of the night, I found them at the exit waiting for me.
Oh my goodness.
And this group of 5 or 6 people, a couple of them locals to New York, and a couple of them, a husband and wife that I met, they had been living in South Africa. They worked for the State Department. He did, and he had been on tour. So they were big travelers. I would have known, which is probably why we connected. I just had a lovely time. I had not planned to go out and spend money on dinner that night. So, but I was like, I'm going to bite the bullet, and whatever the dinner costs, I'm going to buy. And I just went, and they ended up treating me because there was all of them. So they paid for dinner. I just felt like I was like a welcome discussion point. So I love telling that story, because I think when, we talk about, mulling around, you'd be surprised. We exchanged numbers. I'm Facebook friends with her still, the woman that I met there. That happens so many times when you're traveling. Right?
Yeah, it really does. It does. And it's like you said, you have to be in that mindset of just being open.
Yeah.
And, you can get a feeling to trust and, do all of that. And you have some fabulous experiences.
Yeah. I mean, we just walked a few blocks from the place to a restaurant that they had, wanted to go to, and we went into the restaurant, and we said goodbye at the end of the night, outside the restaurant, and went on our merry ways, exchanged cards and phone numbers and stuff. And we talked about getting together again before both of us left New York, but that didn't happen. But, it's that kind of stuff. I've met other people in those ways, just kind of mulling around. My friend Jackie from Vietnam, who I met in New Orleans, literally walking down the street outside of an hostel. We were both staying there, and we ran into each other a couple of times leaving, because we both were early birds. And finally we were just like, we are both staying here. We both are going, let's walk into the city together. So we did. And then we became friends. We're still friends. And we met in New Orleans, and she showed me around Vietnam when I was there. So unbelievable,
Oh yeah, exactly. Right. Or even taking, I know, it's been years and years now, but my husband had something in New Orleans, and he had conference all day. And I was like, I'm going to sign up for this Greyhound bus tour, because I want to go out to the plantations. And so I was like, by myself, same thing. And people think, oh, people won't talk to me, but no, I met these 2 ladies after we did the tour to the plantation. They were all like, oh, because I was going to walk back to my hotel, and they're like, oh no, let's go to the Cafe du Monde and get the beignets and the coffee. So sure enough, they're like, no, you come with us. And it was fabulous. It was lovely. And if I hadn't have been open to just, being on that bus alone and, smiling and chatting with the person across the aisle, because you do start to walk in a group, and people they're curious. They want to talk to you. And
And when you're in a situation like that, like the standing around, mulling around situation, right? People they're looking for, somebody to talk to. They're kind of, you're twiddling your thumbs. You're like, when's our turn to do whatever, or you're on a bus. So it's a good time, if you're looking to meet people, is to kind of put yourself in a situation where you are around people that are stalled, if you will, right?
Exactly.
The moments are stalled. I know you mentioned here on our notes that we should talk about meetup groups, because that's how we met.
Right.
And I was mentioning them to someone else recently who said, are those even a thing anymore? Do people do it? And I said, I think they are. And I also, one of the things that we've discussed about those types of meetup or any other organization that is established with the intention of you meeting people, the people that come to those events, the people that show up, they are the nicest people. They are the most open, because they come with the same purpose. So it's much easier to meet someone in that situation, because almost everybody that shows up at a meetup is trying to expand their circle. That's the whole reason they joined, just like you, right?
Right,
So
exactly.
finding an organization or a group that allows you to kind of join, where its purpose is to connect at others, I think you'll find that's easier too. And I've joined.
And I think, yeah, I think Meetup is still very viable. I
Me
get that
too.
question too. And we host coffee chats, and the same thing. We get people that are still wanting to connect with other travelers, wanting
Right.
to even if they can't travel maybe right now, right this moment, this year's not good for them. We all have personal things that happen. They want to discuss travel. They want to
Right.
share their trips, because sometimes travel is viewed as, maybe your family doesn't want to sit through 100 photos, or they're like, oh, there she goes again. She can afford to travel. I got 5 kids. There's some of
Yeah.
that mindset going on
Right,
too.
right. And I'll look at your photos, bring them to
Yeah,
the coffee chat.
right.
If
Yeah,
you have
exactly.
300 photos of your trip to India, I'm like, bring it on. I want to see it.
Yeah,
Where did you
exactly.
go? What did you do? Other travelers really love it. Yeah, it's really a lot of fun to do. And the meetup groups are a great place to just kind of connect with someone who likes what you want to do. And I know we've mentioned it before that you can even join a meetup in a different city. And I have absolutely done that just by messaging the person organizing the event. If there's like a local meetup where they get together to run, or they get together to have brunch once a month, or a ladies group or whatever, even though you're out of town, you can just say, I match your criteria, right? I'm of the right.
Right.
I'm a woman who loves wine too, or I like to, walk in the park too, or whatever that is, but I'm coming in and I'm spending a week or 2 weeks from out of town. Would you mind if I joined? I've never been turned down. And that's a really great way to meet locals who share your love of whatever it is: yoga, walking, hiking, reading, wine, travel.
Right, it really is, and you'll make new friends too,
Yeah.
potentially. I mean, or have an amazing experience. So I highly encourage, checking through the meetup groups and searching if you're looking, like you said, to go to another city, or even if it's not today, it's 6 months from now, start having that conversation.
Right. I look for those things when I'm planning to go. It gives you a different connection, a different experience, because when I go to like a women's wine tasting thing in, North Carolina somewhere where it's locals, it's different than going on a tour, right? Because on a tour, I'm going to be
Yeah.
sitting with other travelers. But when I go there, these women probably all live here. They have a totally different view of the place that I'm in because they live here. They may be raising their children here or grew up here. And you get to have those conversations. So meeting travelers and meeting locals, I think, is what we ended up talking about today. But I think that's a big part. It's really part of the reason you travel. If I didn't meet people when I travel, I would not love it as much.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the reason most of us travel.
Yeah.
Today we are talking with David and Meredith. David can eat a Chipotle burrito in under 2 minutes, and Meredith is a headstand expert. Both wish they could live on a vineyard in France, and when we asked what class they wish they could teach, David answered bike touring, and Meredith said she would like to share how to hike or backpack with your dog. The cool thing is they're living that dream. So let's chat with them and hear about bike touring with Blaze Adventure Tours.
So welcome, David and Meredith.
Thanks. We're really happy to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, we're so glad to talk to you guys again. So we want to just hear the story. I think you've mentioned to us before, David, but can you tell us the story of how you guys met?
Well, we met through triathlon in college, but how we got together was one day we were friends. I asked Meredith, I'm going to go on a bike tour across France. You want to come? And I was just kind of joking. And Meredith said, yeah. And then we started planning it. And then we started dating and haven't looked back.
That's amazing.
Well, that's great. How long have you been doing it? And what types of tours do you guys offer?
So we've been touring ourselves for, I don't know, together 4 years, but probably 6 or 7 years. And we've only been leading tours for about a year or so now. So we lead tours just mostly right now on the East Coast of the United States. So the Seminole Canal, Blue Ridge Parkway, those kind of areas, but we're trying to expand and lead to tours in different places and reach different.
That's amazing. So I know I asked this before too, but I'm going to find out again. Does someone need to prepare? I know when people talk about bike tours, a lot of people get intimidated that I'm not a biker. I've not ridden 20 miles in a day. Like, what do I need to know to be able to take a Blaze adventure tour?
I would say you definitely need to know how to ride a bike.
Right.
But also, as like part of the sign up package, kind of include like not really a training plan, but just like a recommended duration that you should be able to ride by the time the tour comes around. So I think for the C&O Canal, for example, we said you should be able to ride for like 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah, and it sounds scarier than it is. Like, oh my gosh, 3 to 4 hours. But what I usually tell people is if you are just comfortable, mostly if your butt is comfortable being on the bike for about that amount of time, you're going to have more fun. Or to range, some of them, like the C&O Canal is a great example. It's very flat. It's very laid back. You're not going very fast because you have all day to get there. You know, do you need to train? I would, if you want to have fun, get on your bike a bit, but it's not so necessary. Then we have other tours like the Blue Ridge Parkway where you're going the height of Everest like twice over that. So you should probably be in pretty good shape because that's a tougher one. But we try to offer something for.
And we try to very clearly label them as like beginner versus more advanced, so you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, that's good, because I think that would help, you know, because there are some people that they really want an aggressive tour, right? They're bigger bikers, so you're kind of catering to both groups, right? That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I noticed you've got some tours coming up for 2022. So do you want to give us a quick synopsis of the places you're going? I know you just mentioned the canal, the C&O Canal or something in Appalachia, maybe. So just kind of outline which months, which places, give us an idea on that.
Yeah, definitely. We have 4 tours scheduled right now for next year. And if there's enough demand, we'll have more. So the first one is the Blue Ridge Parkway. It's June 18th through 26th. And that's the big one. It's 9 days. We're doing like 50 to 60 miles most days. We'll be going up Mount Mitchell, which is the tallest mountain this side of the Mississippi. It's not so big as maybe your California mountains, but it's pretty big, almost 7,000 feet. And that'll be a great trip. That's probably for more experienced cyclists, if that's you. And then July 9th and 10th, we actually have a beginner's bike trip, and it's near the Maryland-Pennsylvania border on the Northern Central Rail Trail. And so that trip is per nighter. You have all day to ride about 3 hours. And it's in the summer, so we are including a little tubing excursion along the way where you can tube down the river. And that'll be 0 experience needed. If you don't know, camp will help you. So that should be great. Then we follow that with the Skyline Double. It's on Skyline Drive in Shenandoah National Park, which is one of the most visited parks in the United States. And so this is a route, if you're from the DC, Metro Virginia kind of area, it's the destination route. And one thing that most people haven't done is ride all the way across in one go. And fewer people have done it both ways. So this is a chance for people with some support to do the Skyline Double and go back and forth. And again, that's probably for more experienced cyclists. And then the last trip is the C&O Canal Tour, October 14th through 16th. It'll be nice and cool. The leaves might start changing in the area. So if you're from out of town, that's always great to see. And this is kind of an all skills levels tour. The days are on the longer side, but it's very, very flat. It's very well supported. So if you want to check out the historic C&O Canal that runs from Cumberland, Maryland to Harper's Ferry, West Virginia to Washington, D.C. down in Georgetown, come join us.
Yeah, got it. Those sound amazing. I am so excited. I want to take that last one that you were talking about. So that's as I'm listening and making note of what dates. We've got a few seconds left. And one of the questions we were thinking to ask was, what does a typical day sound like or look like? Can you tell us like how that goes? Like how many hours? And I think you said 3 or 4 hours on the bike. And what else are you doing besides riding bikes?
Well, you definitely start the day with some coffee. And on the first day
We're in.
we leave, we all provide pancakes. Blueberry pancakes, Dave's famous for them. And then as far as like biking days goes, yeah, we'll wake up, we'll have coffee. For some of the harder tours, the longer days, it'll be on the earlier side for trips like the NCR beginner's trip. But really, you could probably sleep if you wanted, but start the day maybe around like 8 or so. And then usually like ride, I think for the CNO canal trip, for example, we rode like 20 miles and then we'd have a support stop with like snacks and drinks and lunch. And then you go another 20 miles, another snack break, another 20 miles. And then in between that, depending on like who you're riding with, you might want to like break it up even further than that. Like maybe you still have like food and things with you every like maybe 10 miles or an hour, for example. You stop and you make sure you regroup, you get everybody back together, make sure everybody's bikes are working well, have some snacks. And then
see the sites, we
Yeah.
try to plan our tours. So along the way, maybe there's a side hike or there's a waterfall that we want to go off and see or things like that. A brewery, yeah. And then every day we always try to end with some type of group activity. So it might be a short hike. Like on one tour for the Skyline Drive, there's a sunset hike because it's a short hike to the top of a little mountain. Other ones, we might take everyone out to a brewery. Sometimes it'll just be everyone getting together around the campfire. That's one thing that we found in our lives. We want to bring to other people. It's that camaraderie that you build with your fellow travelers that really makes everything special. So sometimes it's not even a big mountain. It's a funny inside joke around the campfire with everybody. So along the way, we do try to stay together, like Meredith is saying, and everyone gets to have a great time that way.
Yeah, I love that because I've taken some bike tours and I like that you're stopping every once in a while to gather the group because everybody rides at a different pace and some people get tired sooner or you get your second wind and then they take off. But like you said, David, it's about the people you meet and then hanging out. So kind of keeping us together would make it so much more fun. So easy to get tracked. But I think our timer went off when we were in the middle of talking. So that is our 7 minutes, right? And so we're going to end here. So we're going to ask that folks join us over on our podcast. You'll see the description or the notes for that in our description. And we're going to keep talking with David and Meredith a little bit more to hear some stories and some of the things that they've done. So thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you in a bit.
Wow, wasn't that great? Talking to Meredith and Dave about biking adventures. I don't know if I could sit that long on a bike, but come along and join us over on the podcast for more information and travel with us with real stories from real people.